So I used to crave chocolate and junk food. Yeah. I find that anyone with cravings is undereating. That's normally what it is, or they're undernourishing in some way. I probably eat more now than I did before. I still eat 3 meals a day. I haven't changed that. Any time that I have changed that and listened to someone else and thought, okay, I'll give this a go, what that does then is it makes me, if I do it for a long enough, it makes me think about non-carnivore foods in that gap. And I feel like that will lead people to cheating. So the thing that I do with my coaching, what I find is the biggest problem with everyone, men and women, is undereating. Most people are undereating. What you find is people have starved themselves for years, men and women, and then they come to this diet and they don't know, their body has downgraded their signaling, so they don't really know when they're hungry and when they're full, unfortunately. So what I tend to do is just give people, you know, not the permission, but I just say, trust the process, eat enough. So for myself, I eat 3 meals a day. Like for breakfast, I always have breakfast, and I like to eat pretty much as soon as I get up, and that's either sometimes 10 eggs or it might be a kilo of chicken wings. I don't kind of eat small, but yeah, for me personally, I feel best when I'm doing 3 meals a day. That just sustains me. I don't ever need snacks in between. It's just literally, I give my body what it needs. But I mean, talking about clients, I had in the same week 3 different clients, 1 man, 2 women. Now, I'm not a calorie counter, but there was some issues they were all having. They'd improved in some aspects, but they were feeling cold, they're feeling tired. One of the women's hair was falling out. Another woman could not lose weight. No matter what she did, she couldn't lose weight. So this is at the very, very beginning. So I calculated the calories just as a baseline, so I could kind of understand what they're doing. One of the women, I said to her, you need to eat. And in the end, she was craving tallow, and she was just eating tallow on the spoon. Yeah, she worked it out as something like 6,000 calories a day. Then she started losing weight. Funny enough, because I was like, you're really starving your body. There was another client that I had. She was again 900 calories, not losing weight, having to have a nap at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all these different things. Her hair was really falling out. Within a few weeks, she felt like a whole new person. She lost inches off her waist. She was able to start training at the gym again because she had the energy. She stopped napping in the daytime. All these things were benefiting her. But then she stood on the scales, and when she was stood on the scales, the weight had gone up because muscle is heavier, and that really messed with her mind, and she started reverting back to restricting. And even though she had lost weight, she was down a dress size, all things like that. So yeah, there's some things that really play on people's minds, especially women, more women. But I just think if you treat your body well, you don't fast, you don't, actually I don't fast. I've got myself in a good place where my body trusts that I'm not going to starve it, trusts that the nutrition is coming when it needs to. So it just doesn't hold on to all the fat and everything, and I have quite an easy time with it. But that is largely because I trusted the process and I just have gone with it.
So your take is, it seems to be very different to a lot of kind of carnivore people's takes, because a lot of people talk about the OMADs, doing 1 meal a day, and that seems to be, I don't know why it's so closely linked to carnivore, but a lot of carnivore people talk about doing this OMAD. I did it for a time. I did intermittent fasting a long time ago. But yeah, similar to you, I find that having 2 to 3 meals a day works best for me. But then, is that, do you reckon that's broadly for everybody, or do you reckon that's more of an issue for people that are into training and lifting weights and stuff?
Obviously, if you're not training and you're not exerting yourself, you're going to need less nutrition. Your nutrition should be tailored to what you're doing, and that is why we have hunger signals, and that is why you shouldn't starve yourself. Because some people, they've for years been getting up in the morning and they just have a coffee and they go and they don't eat until kind of afternoon. Well, that is then suppressing your your body's, your body would have asked for nutrition, but you've suppressed that with a coffee because coffee suppresses your hunger.
Hmm.
Um, I don't. I feel like women don't do well on one meal a day. I don't advise it for women ever, actually. And I think that women start feeling better when they're eating at least 2 meals a day, and mostly free actually is what I've come across. People,
Hmm.
their bodies are just behaving well. It helps with their cycle because and obviously then women that I mentioned earlier, they had also lost their cycles, and then once we'd done the reverse and got them into a better state of health, their cycles came back. Um, yeah, so I do believe obviously the level of nutrition you're going to need if you're sedentary to actually active is going to be different. But what I find is most people that are on the carnivore diet have a lot of energy, so they're never sedentary. They may not be going to the gym, but they're doing other stuff around their house, or
Yeah.
they're very physical and active. It's not that they're sitting there and doing nothing, so they're using their body in different ways.
Hmm. Is there a place for fasting at all?
I think in illness and when you may need to use that tool, it's definitely a tool that can be used. But I feel like with fasting, it can cause there's bad side effects to fasting. People really do sometimes get in this cycle of where they fast and it makes them lose a couple of pounds, and then they eat again and they're just doing the carnivore diet, but then it makes them gain 4 pounds. So they're worse off than when they started. Their body isn't signaling when it needs the food at the right times because it's downgraded itself.
Hmm.
So I feel like there is a bad side to fasting. I feel like it is a tool and it can be used, especially in ill health. But I feel like people use that tool way too much, and they almost. So, for instance, I had some clients that before they came to me would fast, and then they would binge eat, but they would binge eat on all the wrong foods, and then it's this big cycle of, okay, then fasting again, binging, carnivore, and it was never a good outcome. They weren't happy with the way they looked, they weren't happy with the way they felt, and they didn't have all the benefits from the carnivore diet. So I feel like there can be a bad cycle that people get trapped in with especially women with this. And actually, some people that I see that are fasting all the time and extended fasting, they look older. You can see it. It's kind of like their bodies are deficient in nutrients. We are meant to intake nutrients. We're meant to feed our bodies, fuel our bodies to be going throughout the day and doing what we need to do. I like to have a full head of hair. I like to look younger. I like to feel good, and I like to be full. I don't like
Hmm.
to feel like I'm starving myself. So, if you eat a huge amount and you're not hungry then for that lunchtime meal, say, then that's not forcing a fast. You
Hmm.
can you can sometimes get through it. But what I find with my clients is what I found in the past with my clients is if people are not getting their nutrition in earlier on, then they're having to eat later on in the evening because they're starving,
Hmm.
which means that it's better, I think, to have kind of a cut off in the evening and not eat so late.
Hmm.
But then I don't advocate people starving themselves. So if in the evening they're hungry, then they're going to have to eat. But they could have eaten that meal earlier on.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? If you
Yeah.
get your
Yeah.
nutrition in earlier, then you don't have to go to the extreme of eating late.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling a lot of my friends is to have the majority of their calories in the earlier part of the day rather than the latter part of the day. And if they
Mm.
are to fast, to rather than skip breakfast, skip dinner or have an early dinner. I used to, as I said before, I used to intermittent fast. I used to do two prolonged fasts a month. And I did that for like maybe about 6 months to a year. And now I do a prolonged fast of about, um, yeah, sometimes 24 hours, like every now and again. But it's not as religious as I was before. But yeah, I can see that too much of a good thing. You see it on social a lot. People kind of get into the fast and or the fasting, as I did, and they kind of broadcast it and talk about it quite a lot. But yeah, I've kind of put the brakes on my prolonged fasting at the moment. I just wanted to go back to one thing you said a little earlier on about your cycle. So another thing that I hear with women is during their cycle they crave carbs. Um, is in your experience, is the craving of carbs during a cycle, is that a signal of something else? And how did you deal in your early days of kind of switching to carnivore? I mean, I don't know whether you before carnivore craved carbs during your cycle, and if you did, how did you adjust to that?
So I used to crave chocolate and junk food. Yeah. I find that anyone with cravings is undereating. That's normally what it is, or they're undernourishing in some way. So whether they're not eating enough fat, or they're just not eating enough at all, then that's when you will get cravings. This is why I think it's so important to actually be really well nourished, because then you don't get the cravings. It's just such an easier ride if you just nourish yourself and you don't ignore your body's signals, because obviously your body's signals are there for a reason. If your body's telling you you're hungry, well, that actually is there for a reason. Even like when you're eating, sometimes something might taste really nice. Well, I believe that's because your body needs it. And then another time it might not taste so nice. Well, your body doesn't need it so much then. And I'm talking about foods in the carnivore kind of realm. I'm not talking about all the foods that are actually made to be, for you to become addicted to them. I'm just talking about the carnivore
Yeah.
space. Yeah, so I mean, when I first started, I was eating liver every day. And that went on for maybe 2 or 3 months. And I craved it, I enjoyed it, and so I ate it. Got to a few months in, and I haven't eaten liver since. I can't stand it. I don't like it. It's like my body's built up that nutrient stores. I'm now no longer eating all of the carbs, the plants that deplete your nutrient stores. So the nutrients that I'm having, I'm holding on to what I need. I've got a good nutrient store. So I don't. If someone actually cooks me, I don't like wasting food. And someone cooked me, I think about a year ago. Actually, when we was in the retreat in Spain as well, there was liver, and I picked it up and I thought maybe I like it this time. One bite and I thought, oh, and I think I gave my liver to Anthony Chafee, because I was like, I can't eat this. You have it. It's disgusting. No way. But yeah, so I think going by as long as we're talking about the carnivore diet and not junk food, not carbs, not plants,
Mm.
because all those things can be easily overconsumed, and being careful with dairy as well, because dairy can be easily overconsumed.
Hmm.
You listen to your cravings and what you like the taste of within the carnivore space, then I feel like that is your body asking for what it needs. And when you don't like it so much, your body's had enough of the nutrients in that food.
Hmm. Hmm.
So listening to the body, I think, is underrated.
Yes, 100%, 100%. What is so again a mistake that people make when it comes to carnivore is just assuming that all meat is equal. So the idea of you can kind of eat loads of chicken or eat loads of turkey, or stuff that tends to be lean protein sources. Where do you stand with the amount of fat people should consume, whether that's men and women or whether it's a broad thing? Do you think that people should be consuming more fattier meats? And if so, could you give some examples of fattier meats that you yourself eat?
Yeah. Okay. So obviously you don't want to go for the chicken breast. When you're on the carnivore diet, your energy is coming from the fats. So you do need to eat high fats, and there's not many meats apart from like the chicken breasts and stuff like that, and whitefish, that are going to be too low in fat. But even if you're looking at the chicken and you want to do this cheaper, you can get chicken wings. Chicken wings are extremely high fat, and they're actually cooked right. They're pretty good. Just salt on them, put them in the air fryer. You can get that skin really crispy, and you can keep the chicken moist. Delicious. and the fat content in it there is really good. Obviously, some people complain that the fat content is too high in omega-6, you know, when you look at the omega-6, omega-3. But I don't have an issue with chicken wings. That is the only part of the chicken that I do eat.
Mm.
But I do eat that regularly, and I don't have any issues with that. Obviously, if you want to be completely optimal, I think the best thing to do is stick with the ruminant meats, and that's animals that have a rumen. They obviously ferment the plants, and it gets rid of some of the plant toxins and stuff like that. So that's why that's a better meat to go for, and they've got a higher content of nutrients in the meat that you're eating.
So for those that don't know what ruminant is, that's like your beef, your lamb, your goat. Am I missing anything out? Out beef, lamb, goat.
Um,
Yeah,
Lamb, goat, yeah,
they're the common ones anyway. Yeah, they're the ones you'll get in the
yeah,
supermarket. But yeah,
yeah. Um, yeah, so those are all good, and actually, I always feel my best if I'm eating lamb. Lamb is my favorite taste wise, and actually, it makes me feel really good. But obviously, in the UK, I don't know about everywhere else, but it's a lot more expensive than eating any other meat. So sometimes you have to weigh that up and just kind of get for the volume. But I mean, if I had it my way, I'd be just be eating lamb all the time.